Hi everyone and welcome to the tutorial. Today I'm going to be demonstrating how to work beautiful one round stripes in our knitting with no jog whatsoever. What actually is a jog? It's a place in our knitting where we've changed from one colour to another and have a visual break where that colour change occurred. Because knitting in the round requires us to work in a spiral rather than in completely separate rings, we can't bring in a new colour without the first stitch we work in it sitting directly next to the final stitch we worked in our previous colour, and there our jog occurs. When we're working one round stripes, we thankfully don't end up with too many jogs. We actually end up with an effect like helical knitting, where each colour forms its own separate spiral in the knitting and therefore looks seamless during the striping. However, there is a jog that occurs at both the start and the end of our striping, the first and last time we change colours. Now, what we have here is still a fantastic, easy way to knit one colour stripes in the round. And if the appearance of these jogs doesn't bother you, I wholeheartedly recommend using this exact method for one round stripes. To knit them just like this, you change colours for the first time at your beginning of round point by dropping the old colour and switching to the colour of your next stripe. Then knit with that new colour all the way to the beginning of round point. Then once again, drop the now old colour, switch to the new colour by bringing it under the previous one, and then knit with that new colour to the beginning of round point. You just keep repeating that until your stripes reach the desired length. Then cut whichever colour you don't wish to continue with and finish off your work with the remaining colour. But what if we would like to knit completely jogless one round stripes? In a previous video, I demonstrated my favourite method for working jogless stripes, when those stripes are quite wide, and I'll leave a link to the video in the description box below. I still absolutely love this technique, but if we apply the exact same steps that it involves to our one round stripes, we run into some issues. It does minimise the appearance of our jogs, but the stacking of colour changes directly on top of each other causes a lot of bulk at the beginning of round point, and we end up with an unsightly raised stitch. Happily though, we can actually use a modified version of this technique for one round stripes, and I'd like to show you one more swatch which in my opinion looks really lovely. If I rotate this swatch around, I'll bet that you can't see where my colour changes occurred. But if I flip the swatch inside out, you can see that I did indeed change colours. It's just that the point at which I changed colours constantly rotated around the project. Obviously then the compromise with this technique is the fact that you'll always be changing colours at a different point, and it makes it quite tricky to align the seamless colour changes with the working of decorative stitch textures. So for that reason, I only recommend this technique for simple stockinette fabrics. Let's now jump into the demonstration of how to work these lovely jogless stripes. We begin by working with the first colour of our project, which I'll call colour A, and then when we're ready to start our striping, a great place for the initial colour change is at the beginning of round point. I've got mine indicated here with a marker. I'll grab what will be my next colour, which I'll call colour B, and hold a tail of it at the back of my work. Then insert the right hand needle into the first stitch of this next round, wrap colour B around the needle, and complete the knit stitch as normal. Now we can work our first round of colour B, so still holding the tail in place for a few stitches to make sure it doesn't slip out. We'll just knit with the new colour as normal. When we reach the beginning of round point again, we slip the marker if we have one, and then we're going to take a look below the next live stitch on the needle to the column of V's beneath it. This live stitch is the first that I worked in colour B, and here is the V immediately below it. This is the stitch we want to use for our joggerless technique. So we're going to insert our right hand needle into the right leg of that stitch, inserting from the back through to the front of our work, and then we're going to lift that leg and place it up onto the left hand needle like so. Next, we're going to knit these two loops together. So insert the right hand needle through both loops and then finish like for a normal knit two together decrease. Here we're ready to change back to colour A again to keep the one row stripe pattern happening. We bring colour A under colour B, and without pulling the yarn too tight, we knit the next stitch of the round normally with colour A. And we're going to knit all the way to our beginning of round point again. This time around, we're going to slip the marker if we have one. Then we'll also knit the first stitch of the next round with colour A. Now we've reached the initial stitch that we worked with colour A. We're going to look below this next live stitch on the needle again, pick up the right leg of the closest stitch beneath it, and pop the stitch up onto the needle again like so. Then continuing with colour A, we knit those two loops together. It's time to change back to colour B again. So we bring it under colour A and knit the next stitch with it, which is the third stitch of the round. Then continue with colour B all the way to the beginning of round. We slip the marker if we have one, and also knit the first two stitches of the round with colour B. Then we're back to where we started with colour B, and we need to work our joggerless technique again. You might start to see how our colour change point is going to keep shifting one stitch to the left every round, and that the stitch we use for our joggerless technique is always the first stitch that we knit with the current colour. So to demonstrate that once more, we pick up the right leg of the stitch below the needle, place it on the left hand needle, and knit these two loops together. Then we're ready to change to colour A again. We bring it under colour B, knit the next stitch with it, then knit this round. We go past the beginning of round marker because it's no longer our colour change point, and continue until we reach the first stitch worked in colour A. Then knit the right leg of the stitch below up onto the needle, knit the two loops together, change to colour B by bringing it under colour A, and knit with it to our shifting colour change point. If you need to finesse the appearance of any of your stitches, you can come back in with your needle tip and pull the legs of the stitches in your knitted fabric until they're all looking even and neat. You need to make sure that each time you change colour, you're not pulling your yarn too tight or too loose, as that will affect the tension of the last stitch you knit with that colour. A cool thing is that you can also use this joggerless technique for 3 colour stripes. Personally, I don't recommend using it for more than 3 colours because the more colours you add, the bigger the jump will be across your knitted fabric between the use of each colour, and the bulkier your collection of floats will get at the back of the fabric. But 3 colours does work, and let's say we now want to add a colour C to our project. You add in colour C exactly like you added in colour B by waiting until you've finished off the joggerless technique with your previous colour by lifting up a stitch and knitting the 2 loops together, and then holding a tail of colour C at the back of your work, begin knitting with the new colour like normal. Then when we reach the first stitch we worked in colour C, we'll pick up the right leg of the stitch below the left hand needle and pop it up onto the needle, knit the 2 loops together with colour C, and then we're going to change back to colour A by bringing it under both colour B and colour C and continuing the round with it. Then make your next colour change as normal, and you'll continue rotating through your 3 different colours. When you're ready to finish off your striping, you'll make one last joggerless colour change with the colour you want to continue with for the rest of your project or your bind off. Then you can snip off the yarns used for the stripes, leaving a tail that can be woven in later. And then proceed with your remaining colour only. So that's how to work beautiful 1 round stripes in your knitting with no jogs whatsoever. Thank you so much for watching this tutorial. If you enjoyed it, please feel free to give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, let me know if you have any questions by leaving them in the comment section below, and I'll see you next time.